Episode 34.
Oh, that was a quick one.
No, I'll try something different.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
Hey everyone! Welcome to 34 episode, and today we've actually got a special guest today. Hello, Constantine Films.
How you going? Hey guys, thanks for having me.
I love the way his voice drops an octave. He's like, I'm so shy.
That was the way I was talking before.
I'm so shy.
Could put on my
Everyone
radio
is
voice.
shy as soon as you put a microphone in front of them.
That's
face,
it.
eh?
That's it.
So yeah, now today we're gonna have a chat with Constantine Films. So Constantine Con, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and driving for an hour to come and see us.
You are a long way from where I am, but that's fine. You know, we're friends,
we're
and
on
you
the
do
other
things
side.
for.
We're on the other side of Melbourne, so I'm more in Essendon. So if anyone's listening from the other side of the world or whatever else, I am closer to the Melbourne airport, and Constantine is from the other side of town, where the birds fly that way and they come back this way again.
Not too far, yeah, southeast, so Oakley area, yeah.
Nice. Hey, welcome to the show again. I just wanted to sort of have a chat with you today and just talk about what we do. At the end of the day, is we do this job for fun and for love in a way, but we're still trying to get paid. So I'm trying to sort of get what makes you tick with Constantine Films, and what do you enjoy. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about that are specifically, like you showed me a couple of links yesterday, and it just blew me away. So I just want to talk about that as well.
Sure.
But like
Careful what you share, because it'll come back and yeah.
No. I think it was fantastic. So
Thanks.
But yeah. So welcome to the show, Evan. And I obviously been running the podcast for a while now, and this was about 6 months ago. We sort of really kicked off, and we talked about certain things and whatever else. And we really met with the MVF, the Melbourne Videographers.
Yeah, Melbourne Video Freelancers group. Yeah,
That's right, Melbourne Video Freelancers. It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. That's why you need an abbreviation. An acronym is yeah.
And you're the one who sort of kicked it off, and you've sort of messaged me, and he goes, "Hey, you're available in, was it April or March or whatever else?"
Yeah, we had so it started in around December actually. Yeah, it was around sort of Christmas time. And it actually came from, it was a LinkedIn comment on a post, and it was around the time where everyone's having Christmas parties, right? All the corporations are shouting their employees to lavish drinks and dinners and Christmas parties, and we're all freelancers on our own, toasting ourselves with our own drink at home, going cheers. So yeah, it kind of really got born from that. It was a comment I think I made. I think it was Ben Lane. Shout out to Ben. It was a comment about, hey, why don't we, us freelancers, small business owners, videographers, photographers, have a meetup, our own Christmas party as such. But December, is notoriously a busy time. Everyone's, got parties to go to, family-orientated events. So I said, hey, let's do it in January when it's quiet. Like our industry, filming, is generally a quiet. Yeah, it was January. Yeah, I don't know. We had one in March, end of March, the second one. It came from that. So, and then I think I just put maybe a post out. I can't remember how it started. And I thought I'll start a LinkedIn kind of chat group, and I kind of, grabbed a few people that I knew, like yourself. Actually, I know you more from Instagram. So I think I might have messaged you on Instagram. But long story short, there was about half a dozen to a dozen people that we started, and it kind of grew legs. And our
You know what? It was fantastic, because at the moment we've got about 40 people in it.
There's
Where
it's amazing.
Where do these people come from? That's what
all
I'm
over the place. Yeah,
right?
Look, we've got Henry's a great supporter of rounding up some people for us. People, you put up a few posts and you just mention that we've got some sort of group, and they come.
Evan's asked down to it as well in the last one. He was like kicking and screaming. I was like, "Mate, you're coming with me now."
So yeah, it was great to meet you, Evan, as well. I've been listening to this podcast for 6 to 12 months, I think, and that's how I know you guys is through this. So
I actually knew of you beforehand.
You've been stalking him. Is that what you're saying?
No. There was a competition, ironically.
All good things.
It's a plug, but video guys. who were big supporters of the show, they were running a competition, and they were giving something away. I can't remember. It might have been a lark.
I should have brought it. You can have a look at it. I should have brought it tonight. If you like. You could have let you touch it and let you. Yeah.
and I was like, I think you had to make some type of comment and plug people, or sort of link people into your comment so that they could see it as well. And I was just flooding these posts with just my remarks, trying to get the
That's
thing.
where you went wrong, is by
right?
stalking and harassing.
And so I just pumped it out there. I was working so hard to get this freebie, and
I didn't. For the record, I didn't work hard at all. I think I just made one comment.
rub it in.
Just to have that on record.
So what ended up happening was I actually didn't get it, and I'm like, what do you mean? I put so much effort into it. Why did I not win? And they went, someone else won. I said, who's this person who won it? And they said, Constantine. And I'm like, who? And they said, Constantine from Constantine Films. Yeah. And I was just like, you're my arch enemy from that moment on.
All right, I'll definitely bring it in next time. So
but then we met at the Christmas party.
Yeah, all good. A couple of beers later, we're all good. Yeah, that's it. Actually, the comment I did, it was about because I was for everyone else, what I won, it was the Axoon CineView, the HDMI remote transmitter. It's like worth about $1,000. So it was a pretty nice little.
Just keep rubbing it in.
Yeah. So it basically, I think I commented because at the time I was trying to record myself doing music. Actually, and it's very hard to see what you're doing if you're trying to, set up mics and video cameras. And I said, this would come in handy for doing, recording things like that. So that's where it came from. Yeah,
that's great, man. And I think with the Melbourne Videographers sort of freelancers group, we catch up now every a month, 2 months, or whatever it was.
Yeah, 3 months. I'm going to try and make it quarterly. Quarterly event if I can.
And Evan actually and I were discussing it on the way back after the event, and we were like, such a great idea. And I think everyone there is very much on the same level.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like we understand we kind of almost competition to each other, but it's one of those things where you kind of, when you know each other, we can bounce off each other, we can help each other out, and at the end of the day, everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's funny because my wife goes, "Aren't they your competitors?" Like she goes, "What are you doing trying to create a group with other videographers? Aren't you competing for the same client and the same job?" And I said, "It's not like that. Like,
but if you really think about it, though, it's like every city, like Melbourne, for instance,
there's enough work to go around.
They've got 5 million people. Over 5 million people. How many million of businesses are there, and how many of us are there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think by helping each other out, like Henry from one of the the other guys from the group came over yesterday. He borrowed one of my gimbals, and then he goes, "I got to shoot." So, mate, grab it. No worries, man. Help each other out. You know what I mean?
Well, yesterday in the group, right? So with the LinkedIn group, we created a WhatsApp group. So you need the phone number of the people and a contact. So the WhatsApp group is probably the most active. Yeah, LinkedIn is where you connect, and then I always message them going, "Hey, give me your phone number. I'll add you to the WhatsApp group." But yesterday, there were 3 questions. I think there was one about the drone with Henry, which is great. There was a question about, I'm needing a tripod that can go 2 meters high, and straight away within literally 5 minutes there were 4, 5, 6 links and what about this one, and then people were back and forward, and then there was another question as well. So like 3 and it's aimed at us. We're all doing it, a lot of us for a living, some of us part-time, but that's we're all in it, and we all need advice. And the Facebook groups aren't always the right groups to go in, and you don't know them, right? And once you've met people, and for me, the group is a great way. You might see a photo, see a video, and go, "Oh wow, this is great." But if you're needing help on a shoot, say you need a photographer, say you need a videographer to help you on a shoot, there's no better way to know that you could work with someone by having met them in person, right? And we don't always have time to network and meet someone every week and build up our network. Where this meetup is a place we're all going to be here for a few hours. Everyone and what I've tried to do as well before every meetup, I've tried to do like a cheat sheet, I guess, of everyone's faces. So it takes me a little bit of time to do it, but I think it's worth it, because even just on the train ride in, you can look down and go, okay, who's, like you go to a party, right? You go, who's at the party? Do I know them? Is it my uncle, my auntie? What are their names again? And, you're going through, I haven't seen my family members for ages. So you're going through everyone's names. It's kind of like that, where I made it basically a poster. And it was just their face, their name, and maybe, most of us have our, business company name underneath, and it's just like a snapshot of...
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So
the only thing is next time maybe we've got to wear name tags or something like that. So
mate, actually, no, there you go. Ideas. You're an ideas man. Yeah.
But look, I guess at the end of the day, this episode wanted to be more focused on you.
Yeah.
Rather than, we want to meet each other, and it's all fantastic. And me and you clicked on. We sort of started talking, and we're doing the same thing. And I'm probably a little more into drones than you are, but then you're more into sort of audio than I am as well. So I wanted to pick your brain and obviously try to find out what sort of how did you get into this and all that sort of stuff. So is it possible? Because a lot of our listeners probably would say, hey, we would like to know. We want to get into this sort of stuff as well. And, both Evan and I, been doing this for a while now too. So when did you start? What made you to sort of, say, hey, I'm going to be a freelancer, or I want to do, so how long have you been in business for now? Yeah,
so look, on my own, full-time sort of freelancing, it's only really just ticked over 12 months for me. Yeah, full-time. But I've done video full-time for about 7 or 8 years, but I was working for a big telco company, and it was more corporate. So I was doing corporate interviews and case study films on certain things, which is great. That's kind of my last sort of 7-8 years. But I guess even if just going right back, even my late teenage years, I've always loved computers, editing. So I was more of an editor. So I guess thinking back to how I got into editing, late 90s, my parents had a old wedding, reel-to-reel, Super 8. I don't know the quite the right old school, tape recording of their 1970 odd, wedding when they got married. And they got it converted to VHS in the late 90s. And
if people don't know what VHS is, if they're too young, it's a big old
so
tape,
explain to the younger viewers. This is going to show my age and date stamp me now. But basically, they had that converted to VHS, and they were going to get it when DVDs came in the 1997, 98 kind of era was becoming more popular. They were going to pay, I don't know, $700-800 for someone to convert it to DVD. And I went, all right, I reckon I could get this money off them. You pay me and I'll learn how to make a DVD. I said, if you buy the DVD burner back then, which weren't cheap back then, you buy the DVD burner, I had the computer, I'll figure out how to make a video for you. I'll put it to music and, create that. So that was my sort of project, and that got me into, I just loved editing.
Yeah. So it was pretty much self-motivation though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like it was just like, hey, I don't mind doing this, and I'm going to just have a crack at it.
Yeah.
And you obviously enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've got a, computers, techie sort of mind, I guess. And look, that went on, and I would film, so I wasn't 100% confident at that time in filming. I was filming more like, holiday trips, and my kids came along, and I'd be doing little videos with the kids, and, I was using, iMovie when the Macs just came out then, really early days. That led into, I actually used Camtasia as well for a point, and then moved into Final Cut. So I was doing mainly editing, but it was never for work, right? So my bread and butter, my job that I was doing was more of I was an instructional designer. So I was creating e-learns for corporates. So I kind of fell into that through training, documentation, facilitation, sort of the training space. And I just got bored of meeting training objectives and doing training related stuff. So
it would have been a lot of pressure, right, as well with that sort of job, because they would have want you to sort of pump up
you've got to show your return on investment for doing the training and all that sort of stuff. So it was fine, and it's a great job, and don't get me wrong, but I always used to make videos and embed them into my training. So I would always go around and go, how can I, rather than doing a quick reference guide or something written, I'm more like, how can I make this visual? How can I make this more interesting? I got bored with doing instruction. I got bored of doing the training modules myself. So if I'm bored, the user's going to be bored. So how can I make this entertaining for them? And they learn something from it. So that's kind of how my video editing and video came apart. And then I got offered a job to be full-time video for a big telco company, creating initially for their internal staff. And then 2 or 3 years went on, and then I got an opportunity to work in the external media, corporate affairs space, doing a lot of their visual content externally to LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. That's kind of how it started, and then I got made redundant, as everyone does on big corporations when they're downsizing, 12 months ago. So I was like, do I go back into
corporate world?
Yeah, do I go back into my instructional design, which I did for 10, 12 years, and I was good at it, but my love and passion wasn't there, and I had a choice: do I apply for these jobs, or do I go, you know what, I'm going to try and make this work, this freelancing, my own small business. I'm going to give it a go, and
I think that's a great idea. I think I came from a corporate background as well. I used to be in IT, doing servers, PCs, the whole corporate networks and whatever else. And my boss was the biggest asshole. You know what I mean? And I was just like, you know what? Stuff you. I had enough of your crap. Because we used to do a server upgrade till 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, right.
And the expectation was me being back at work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, get stuff, mate. What are you, seriously? So I think everyone's sort of going through that sort of step of, this is just too much. I'm just not getting paid enough for it. And let me become a freelancer. And then you work 20 out of 24 hours.
Yeah. Well, for me, I actually love my job. So so it's kind of a bit different story. Everyone's like, oh, you're very brave to go freelancing and this and that. I'm like, well, I kind of didn't have I did have a choice, I guess. Like I could have gone back to my instructional design background, but I love what I did. Like when I was working for the telco, I was actually going out and doing case study films around the country. I had flying drones, interviewing, and creating these short 3 to 4 minute stories. Really, like I in my head, I was a documentation filmmaker. Really, in my head, even though I was working for a corporation, I treated it like, right, I know I'm lucky. I know I'm in a privileged position. Not many people get to do what I do and get paid for it. And I knew that every day I woke up, and I knew that. And I'm a perfectionist at heart as well. So I really do want to make sure everything I do is done to it, that I'm happy with and that I could be proud of. And then I want to, if I show something, and my wife is a good bouncing board for content, and she's brutally honest, which is great. You need someone who is honest, because most people go, oh, that's lovely, oh, amazing, and then, I need someone who goes, oh, don't know, that's not quite hitting the mark.
It's fantastic
so
to have that.
You need that, right? And I love that. And shout out to my wife, Ella. Thank you. Yeah, I love you.
Good job, Ella.
So I need that, right? So if I know when I'm going to show her something, if I'm going, sliding it, going, oh, I don't know about this one. I know that's straight away. Like, you've got to be like, I'm proud of this. I want to show it. So your work has got to be at a standard where, like, even if it's just, an event or a standard sort of corporate event or whatever, you still want to be proud of what you're doing and put that effort into it.
So at the moment though, so let me just step back a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
So what are you focusing on as well? So
it's funny, they say, get a niche down. If you don't niche, how can you got to be the expert in that niche market? Like, I guess long term, I'd love to kind of niche in corporate case study films. Like, I'd love to, but finding those, finding people that would pay you to do that, it can be tricky. I was lucky enough, a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, I did a story in Cootamundra in the middle of New South Wales it was an oilseed company. They needed a video. They were going to NASDAQ to get listed on the stock exchange, and they needed a story. And I went there and flew my drone and interviewed and B-roll footage, and so that was like coming back to my love of what I love doing is creating these little short 3-4 minute
And that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Like you want to be able to do a storytelling. You want to be able to sell tell someone's
an
story.
emotion. Like so for me, like I love music and I love being able to have visuals to music, and I guess the driving factor is, to me, almost everything I make, I want someone to feel something, and it can be hard in a corporate environment.
Yes.
If it's a piece to camera, scripted teleprompter, how can I feel anything? But you can still use dips in music and pacing and spreading out the words and constructing the narrative of that little short film with visuals that match. And so my aim in everything is to show someone a video, but they feel something from it. You don't always get that, but you got to aim for that's my benchmark, I guess.
So 12 months ago, you basically go, because I was just wondering, when you were starting off, right? We started off with one camera, one tripod, maybe a lapel microphone, or whatever else. So
building up the gear's hard.
Yeah, the building up the gear. So like in 12 months, I think when I started off in 12 months, I hardly had any.
It wasn't 12 months.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No.
So it's sort of, it spans out over a few years.
Years and years,
to sort of, accumulate the knowledge and the gear and 10 other things that are basically, the skill levels of, So I was just wondering, like when you started off, and did you say to yourself, all right, I'm going to do weddings, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this? Or you sort of went to...
Yeah, so, good point. Like it's expensive, the gear that we have, and it takes a long time, and even to get to know how to use all that sort of gear takes time. So I was lucky that I was kind of learning on the job, I guess, when I worked for my the big telco company that I worked for the last few years. And I was able to learn on the job with filming and the technicality. And when I first started, they said, look, we've got a budget of about $5,000 or $6,000. You can use it for, a camera, tripod, light. So I did my research, right? And at the time, I actually didn't know much about cameras, to be honest, like at that time. And I saw Micro Four Thirds was a great format for, the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization is great for handheld shooting, but can still work for corporate, filming. I think at the time, before I had the budget for that, I had a Canon, looking over you, Evan, I had a Canon 70D. So I did my first interview. I remember it clearly because there was no way of being able to monitor your audio while I was doing the interview. They didn't have the headphone output on the camera. So I think it's a Canon 70D. And I did the interview, and I had a Rode, one of the original Goes or whatever it was years ago. And I'm like doing the interview. It was just like some sort of executive. It wasn't super high up, it was still high up enough that you kind of like, I'm going to make sure I get this right. It's my first interview. But I went back to my desk going, I hope that came out right. And I was looking at the meters and going, I'm pretty sure I haven't peaked, but I couldn't hear it. And I go back to my desk and going, I'm never doing that ever again. I'm not doing an interview where I can't put headphones on and going, yep, we're good to go. I'm recording. So after that, I went, nah, like we have to. And then they came up with a budget. So I'm like, okay. So I did my research. So I've actually now heavily invested down the Micro Four Thirds rabbit hole of lenses, and I'm kind of stuck there at the moment, but I've got my eye on the S5. So I'm for disclosure, like Lumix. So Lumix. So I started off with a GH5. We're talking techie stuff here now, but the camera I bought was a GH5. Tripod. I bought a Crane 2 gimbal, or Crane 1 maybe gimbal, like one of the original ones. Like a light, like an LED. It didn't even have like a softbox on it. Like I didn't even know about diffusion or anything back then. It was all really basic stuff. So I had a GH5, but now I'm shooting with I've got 2 GH6s, and I've got the G9 II, which is great for having phase detect autofocus finally. And I did an interview last week and using autofocus for the first time. I've been manually focusing all my interviews.
Yeah, that's what Evan does.
And I've just used it once, and you can't go back. Like,
honestly, but I've just moved across to Canon doing video production and having the face recognition. And whilst it is fantastic, there are problems that I found with it where it starts hunting.
Yeah,
like if you've got two people on the screen.
Not mine.
If you've got two people on the screen.
Oh yeah, not two. Yeah.
It suddenly starts going, well, there's another person there. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And it starts flashing on the screen.
Can you lock it for that person to the autofocus for?
I don't believe technically you're meant to, but it keeps giving you the option and popping up. And it's actually, for me, I'm getting daunted by it. I'm like, I'm starting to panic because with the manual device, you just set it to what you needed. You could see the focus peaking. Then you're like,
it is good. Like I've done years and years of just manual, and I still love. I don't really use autofocus when I'm doing handheld as well, because I like to rack focus, full focus, and as long as you've got your meters and everything on your monitors, it's fine. But you're right, there is something about going, I know I'm locked in here. However, then the subject starts moving, so they're moving forward, they're moving backwards, and you're like, and you might be talking, maybe you're the only one doing it, and you're looking at the who you're interviewing. And you're not looking at the camera the whole time and not realizing they've actually stepped forward half a foot. And then you get back and you're like, oh my God, they've out of... And So look, I love manual focusing, don't get me wrong, but having phase detect autofocus now in a camera, and I just was looking at some footage today from an interview I did last week, started editing it today and going, the eyes are just crisp. Like I didn't quite have that before. So it is good.
I think there's one common denominator here. Canon that everyone's using.
Yeah, don't hold it against me. I'm a black magic man at heart, you know. No, look, the Canon I've moved across purely because it gives me the ability to do video and photos, and I still do both of them. So it was a no-brainer to carry that because, you know, if I'm traveling somewhere and I'm going to take 2 cameras, and then I also do need to do photos, I'd be carrying 3 or 4 cameras. And traveling, because I love world photography and videography, for me, carrying 2 cameras and lenses and batteries and chargers, it just got out of hand. So that's why I looked at the Canon and I went, oh, this does everything that I needed to, and I gave it a chance. And to be honest with you, I actually, every time I use it, I'm actually quite surprised because it's come along in leaps and bounds. As I've always said, probably not good in the focus sense compared to a Sony, but it is pretty good. It's just getting used to it when you've been using manual for so many years, and suddenly you're like, it's doing what it wants to do, and you're like, no, I stopped doing that. It's freaking me out.
Yeah, and look, like Sony's like, you know, the pinnacle of autofocus and focus, and like almost everyone's using Sony. So it's funny. I'm probably the only one in the group actually that's even on Panasonic and Lumix, and which is kind of like I'm in a position where I'm like, sometimes I wish I had someone else to be able to talk like Lumix and very specific, you know, with lenses. You know, I've switched over to all Leica lenses now as well. So because I'm kind of trying to diversify a little bit with what I do. So yeah, I do films and, you know, mainly video, but on my own freelancing, right? You know, you can't 100% niche down to just that. You've got to cast the net wide. And I do photography too. So, you know, I do corporate headshots and, you know, I do event photos. And I was using a Metabones adapter with Sigma. I had a Sigma 18-35 1.8 art lens on my GH5 with a Metabones. And when they said, oh, can you take my photo? And I'm like, oh, hang on. So you switched to photo. And then it was like, it was hunting. Yeah, no, it's just hunting. And I'm like, oh, I can't. Like, if I'm going to do photos, you know, full time like this, I've got to be reliable autofocus. So I've switched pretty much all my lenses to, you know, all the Leica. And they're just native, you know, Lumix Panasonic lenses, and it's just amazing now. Big difference. You're kind
of in that sort of ecosystem at the moment where you kind of know it now.
Yeah. Like I do have my eye on like a S5 2X. I'm not opposed to going full frame, but then you've got all the lenses to get right. So I've got, you know, I don't know, 12. You know, is my wife listening to the whole podcast? I don't know. I've got quite a few lenses, but they all serve a purpose, right? Yeah. But you know, what do? You're going to sell 10 lenses and then go, you know, so...
You know what, I've done that in the past because I moved from Canon to Sony as well. Yeah. And at one stage, I had like 12, 13 lenses for Canon. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm only really using like literally 3 or 4 of those lenses, you know what I mean? So what's the point of having them?
I'm sure you got the Lauer Probe lens that sits in the back of the cupboard doing that. Yeah, we've all got the Lauer Probe lens. We've used like twice on a shoot.
I don't have one. I've always wanted to have one of those sitting.
I can hire it out if you ever want to. I'm open to hiring my.
Yeah, but you got the Micro Four Thirds. It doesn't work.
I've got the Metabones still. I still have the Metabones
for Canon. But look, you know, I've moved from Canon to Sony, and I really stuck with literally, you know, 4 or 5 lenses. That's it. You know what I mean? So, you know, sometimes it sort of works better, but then, you know, it's hard to sort of put them on the marketplace and then having all these people coming around and go, oh yeah, you know, I'll give you $5 for it. And
I do use Marketplace a lot. Yeah. I buy and sell gear on filming gear on Marketplace a lot, actually. I've had jobs out of Marketplace, would you believe? Funny stories from there, but yeah.
I guess the next thing where I want to sort of talk about is the next stage. So you sort of 12 months ago, got into this sort of, you know, and did you hit the market basically just straight for the corporate sort of stuff, or did you find, like, you know, you've tried weddings, you've tried different things to see what you sort of like? Yeah. Because you mentioned sort of, you know, creating a lot of films and whatever else. Have you actually created like a short film or anything like that, or have you sort of, you know? So I'm just wondering. So I'm trying to pick your brain. To see what, you know, which way you sort of going.
So look, I basically do corporate work. So, you know, corporate interviews. I've got a few big sort of corporate clients.
Right.
I guess for me, I was lucky that I had a good network. So for me, LinkedIn is probably my biggest network. I've been in the corporate space for, you know, 15, 20 years doing instructional design work. So every time I was a contractor too in a company that contracted me out to do 2-3 months at all these corporations. I've worked in maybe 25 different corporate businesses. And every time you left, you know, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn was mainly, back then LinkedIn was like, oh, I worked with you, I'm leaving now. I'll hook up on LinkedIn. And you just be their, you know, friend, I guess not really the right word, but, you know, contact on LinkedIn. And you never hear from them. I never really posted on LinkedIn. It was just a place where I just made contacts. And then I can go, I worked with such and such, you know, back then. It was a way to look back. And as that grew on, I had a quite a good network. And then when I went freelancing, and, you know, was made redundant with my work, I'm like, okay, I've got to put myself out there. And it was actually funny. I got approached a few months before I was, and knowing that I was made redundant, I got approached by a company that make digital business cards.
Oh.
And they're like, because I think they saw me on LinkedIn. I think their marketing angle was if anyone comments on their digital business card company, they would reach out and go, you've got a decent network. Mm-hmm. How about I give you a free digital business card? In response, you just do a post on LinkedIn. And I'm like, okay. In my head, I'm like, I can't just do a post. I've got to make like a video.
Yeah,
it's got to be like, I'm like, okay, and then it's going to be more work. Is it worth it? And then I kind of went, oh yeah, no worries. And they sent me the business card and I got it. I'm like, but it was my Constantine Films where I branded. Mm-hmm. But at the time I was still working with my corporate job. And every now and then I might do a weekend gig under my, I had my own gear at home. I wasn't using works cameras. I had a full kit at home that I built up over the years. But I'm like, I can't put a post up on LinkedIn about Constantine Films. Yeah. And I'm like, hang on a minute, you work for this big company, doing their videos. How that wasn't going to sit right? So I kind of put it off. I'm like, oh no, I've got to put something out. But they gave me a card. Anyway, I then found out I was being made redundant. It was going to be a 2-month time period. Mm-hmm. And then I messaged them because the guy goes, oh, hey, mate, how's that post going? I'm like, oh, look, I've got an idea for a video. I'm going to do this and that. And then I'm like, okay, look, I'm finishing up in a couple of months. Can you wait 2 months? Yeah. And then I'll use it as a bit of a springboard to launch my freelancing kind of business. So they said, yeah, no worries. So basically day one, I'm like, hey guys, I'm out my own freelancing. And I made this like 30-second kind of an advert for their digital business card. Just had a simple idea of holding the card up in about 10 different backgrounds and walking through different scenarios, but keeping the card center and then showing you how the business card works at the end. It was just a short video, but it did really well. And so that helped me it was like an advert, I guess. Yeah, but it was my business name and that kind of helped me. And would you believe the day one I had a job? Wow. From a contact I had, and then it kind of just I've been lucky. It's gone from job to job, and I haven't had too many, quiet periods, to be honest. It's been
that's fantastic because obviously the LinkedIn is such a powerful platform as well, but you do have to sort of build up that sort of the connections in a way and whatever else. So LinkedIn is I've been in the corporate world as well, and I've got obviously a few people there as well. But I haven't really been posting or anything like that. I haven't actually done much with it. And I feel like I should because, obviously clearly worked for you.
Most of my work comes from LinkedIn or repeat work and repeat clients. And, work promotes work. So for me, I've always loved doing this for years. And, at times when I was at my corporate job, people there would be like, why are you doing all these? But behind the scenes. So I like putting up behind the scenes of the lights, the cameras, doing a breakdown of, maybe having the final frame of my interview and then, showing you how I made that by, the diffusion and the backlight and the hair light and the key light and all that sort of stuff, right? It's nothing too fancy. It's just really phones from my iPhone. But I remember, at times, people didn't, where I worked didn't quite understand why I was doing it and thought maybe I was self-promoting or you can't put up that, you can't, why are you giving the secrets to how you're making something look? I'm going, but I love that. I love looking at other people's posts. I love learning from other people, and for me it was a bit of a giving back to other showing, look, this is what can be done, and other filmmakers or photographers, videographers be like, oh, I see how you've done a key light there and, oh, right, okay, and get ideas from it. And it was really just kind of, to interact with my network of other, videographers and filmmakers and how to light. And that's kind of, where I've been doing.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because, personally, I feel like I love watching the sort of behind-the-scenes sort of stuff. And a lot of people, look, they don't have the gear, number one, so they can't really redo what you do and whatever else. But it's always sort of attracts that sort of extra pair of eyes. And, I find that, if I do the same thing, like I shot this solar installation thing last week and the guy actually just put a real quick reel of me flying the drone and whatever else. And he goes, I saw him yesterday, I think it was. And I said to him, oh, I saw you posting that thing on Instagram. He goes, yeah, it went like mini viral almost, you know what I mean? Because, there was a drone, there was the infrared sort of, footage and people are sort of into that sort of stuff. So I think posting those behind the scenes. It's fantastic. And I do a bit of time lapse as well. I don't know if you noticed.
I've seen it.
So just the whole setup, and and it. Like, I think it's just sort of people see that as a professional sort of way inside that sort of corporate sort of video production business.
Yeah.
So I think it does work. Definitely.
Yeah, you just got to be careful, about what you show, making sure that you ask the clients, are you okay with me taking a photo, and I've you got to ask permission from, depending on who you feel. I'm doing a lot of CEOs and sort of, corporate executives, and you just can't be putting up their photos. You've really got to be careful with that. So, disclaimer, make sure you get all your approvals and, everything's above board.
So you don't actually do weddings as such, do you?
So, just a quick story. Funny enough, I've done one, and it came from Marketplace. So I was selling a Viltrox adapter, like the Metabones adapter, and the guy's name was Constantine. And he goes, "Oh, sorry, mate, the adapter's not the right one I'm looking for, whatever it was." And I just went, "Oh, funny enough, I do filming as well, and I use Constantine as my business name." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, right." He goes, "Well, I'm more a photographer getting into video." And I said, "Oh, look, I do video, but I'm trying to branch out into photography." He goes, "Oh, look, I do weddings." He goes, "Oh, look, maybe if you ever need, if I ever need a second shooter, would you back for a wedding?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, never say never." And I thought, like, he'll go away. 2 weeks later, he messaged me, "Hey, mate, I've got a wedding coming out next week. Do you want to be a second shooter?" I'm like, "Okay, weddings. It's not something I ever really wanted to do." I did it. I only really had to do the groom's house and the wedding in the church, but it was what nationality it was. It wasn't Greek. It went for like 2 or 3 hours. It was a really, really long traditional wedding.
Oh, like the actual church component.
Yeah, the church component went for ages. But I didn't actually go back to the actual party afterwards. It was 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of filming. And I don't even think they used much of my footage in the end anyways. I'm like, I don't think that's for me. But
look, I think last wedding that I did was, years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, if not more. And I think it was like a 10-hour plus wedding. And without a word of a lie, I reckon I needed like 2 full days to recover after that.
Yeah, it's pretty hard work. You're running around and you got to get the moment, get the shot.
And you're physically thinking about it. You're mentally thinking about it. You're just running around with this freaking 5 kilo camera, and it's just like killer.
And this was before the MVF, the Melbourne Video Freelancers group we started. It was before this, and I didn't really know many videographers. And there was a shoot a few months later that I couldn't attend because I was traveling up with the family. It was a corporate shoot, and it was the very first time that I had to get anyone else through my business to video for me, and then I was going to do the edit. So his name's Constantine, right? So I ended up telling the client, goes, "Oh, I've got one of my guys, inverted commas." And I said, his name's Constantine as well, ironically. And I was, making a joke that I only hire people with as Constantine as my name, as my business. So I'll have to, get shirts made up or something.
That's awesome. Hey, last night you actually sent me a couple of links as well, and I was blown away. Without a word of a lie, I know you're blushing at the moment, but seriously, man. So
the tinge of green screen. Yeah.
No, it was so good. So you produce music as well. So you tell me more about this. So how long have you been doing this? And I want to know more about it because I've got something that I've got in my head, and I want you to be involved in it. So tell me more how you started off.
Yeah, so I was a late bloomer in terms of, so I play guitar, and I started playing when I was about 14 or 15, which was pretty late, I reckon. Like most kids would get into it earlier. And I just saw some kid playing Silverchair's Tomorrow at a birthday party, and I'm like, oh, he's cool. Came home, and my background, my dad's Greek and my mum's Irish, and she would sing and play guitar at Irish family get-togethers all the time. But I never really, picked it up or, was interested in it until I saw this kid at a party and going, oh, he's cool. So I came home and she goes, here's a guitar, gave me her guitar, and she goes, here's a book of chords. I'm like, oh, okay. So I just sort of went into my bedroom and like literally half an hour came out and I could strum and play. I'm like, oh, all right. I've just picked it up really easily and then kind of, went from there. But look, I played in, my music went from, Pearl Jam and Nirvana and everyone starts out and, Soundgarden and Rage Against the Machine, and then went a bit heavier and I used to play in a Metallica cover band. Yeah, Metallica. And then we we were auditioning a guitarist for a band that we were starting. And he was into progressive metal, so Dream Theater, really technical. Everything's like, math based you're counting in your head with 8th note, 16th note. It's really technical stuff. And he came into the band and showed us, another way. So my band was, we played for about 5 years. Modus Vivendi was my band name. And, we had a good scene back in the late 90s, early 2000s in Perth. So I'm from Perth originally, I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
We used to play with Voyager, who played at Eurovision, represented Australian Eurovision last year and done really well, and Carnival and sort of those guys in Perth. Yeah,
the link that you sent me though,
it's not heavy.
But you know what though, I really enjoyed it, and I was walking the dog yesterday, and when I was talking to you on the, and I was listening to it, and I was just like, I was really like, I'm going to play this at the end of the episode,
sure.
Because I really think that, it's fantastic. It's really good.
It's a lot quieter than the heavy progressive metal.
It's so good.
Well, I got a ukulele so I've got 2 kids. So they're now 13 and 10, Eli and Tilda. But when my first Father's Day present, my wife bought me a ukulele. So I've never had one before. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, I was playing around. It was kind of around, the Eddie Vedder uke kind of thing that came off about 15 years ago when he was doing the ukulele album from Pearl Jam. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So I played around with it. And then I'm like, okay. And then I just started writing, a few songs. And that album, that EP that I recorded, it was, it's all songs about the kids and uke sort of songs. And but I produced a lot of this, pretty much everything on there. It's kind of
awesome.
Done. Yeah.
And it's all original music, right?
Yeah. There was a cover. There was a remix. Actually, that remix cover still ticks away in the background on Spotify. It's like a Portishead remix I did that I collaborated on SoundCloud back before sort of Spotify. It was SoundCloud.
Obviously had that sort of artistic and that sort of visual audio sort of sort of the vibe, the spark, obviously.
But it's funny, I never really got into, like, I used to film gigs. Like my girlfriend, back in the day would film a lot of our metal gigs, and with Modus that I used to play on an old DV. Was it DAT tape? Yeah, it was a camcorder.
There's one behind you.
It was I've still got it somewhere in the shed. And I converted them to VHS, and then I converted them to so I've got records of them and digital copies of them because the tape's going to die at some point. But I never had a passion at that time to like make a video clip or anything. I just kind of point and shoot and film the gig. But it's only until later that I started to try and make film clips. Of some of the songs and things. But I need to do more videos for my own music, I guess. You get caught up with client work and but
of course.
I just
what the passion sort of and that's why we're doing this podcast, because it's more of a passion in a way of talking to people, getting an understanding and knowledge, and sharing, and obviously it's not the competition, it's collaboration and the helping each other out, so the music is component. I think you should continue it because I really enjoyed it, man.
It's just time, right?
Yeah.
It's like I've got the kids are getting older, so they're getting easier to you don't have to put them to bed as such, and they're pretty self-sufficient. But we're getting older, right? We're similar age, and it's tiring, right? You get home from work and you just want an hour just to sit down, switch off, watch one episode of a TV show just to unwind, and then you're in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, right? And then you do the same thing again the next day. So it's hard to it's hard to find the time. You've got to have a space. I mean, this room here that we're in, I don't know if you showed me any photos. It's your studio here. Is a lovely big space, and you've got it soundproofed. And I need to soundproof my music room, and I think that I'll probably do more music at night when because my room's very close to the kids' bedroom. So, thanks. I got to get back into it.
It's brilliant, though. I think you need to continue, and Evan's obviously fairly heavy into sort of audio, and I think audio is one of the more important things in video as well. Evan can probably add to this because he's just looking at me like a stunned mullet. But like
you're awake here. I haven't put you to sleep. I can't waffle on.
I'm just sitting here soaking it in.
But you're obviously fairly heavily into audio, so I think Constantine or Con do believe that obviously audio is almost like it's more important than the video itself, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, it's key.
You have to have good audio to be able to enjoy that video, and and Evan is obviously you've done a lot of DJing in the past, and music
production,
music productions and other things. So, and I've asked you for certain or help with certain tracks and whatever else. I had to sort of extend certain tracks or whatever else, and You can grab that beer, man. No worries. But you know, like
it's water.
I think it is water. Yeah, you know, just having that sort of audio to be able to, you know, visually see it. You know, it's more important though.
It adds complexity to the video production. I mean, video itself is great, fantastic, but the audio can create a whole atmosphere. And the mood is created through audio. You know, I've said it a couple of times, but you can go off and watch a video which is, you know, really high quality visually, but the audio is terrible and you won't watch it. You'll switch off. You can watch a really bad video, quality-wise, but it's got good audio, and you'll sit there and watch the rest of it. That's one of the things that I try and incorporate in all my video productions. It was actually funny because I spoke to Constantine before the show, and we were both like nodding, you know, yeah, audio. And then Marty walked into the room and he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, don't worry, you don't understand.
I think with myself is I do 100% believe what you're saying. It's just, I think it's almost like you have to be able to produce music and be integrating into that sort of space to be able to understand it fully. And obviously you are, because, you know, you've been producing your own work and you've been, you know, like you've been editing your own work from an audio perspective. And it's just, you can tell. I mean...
Yeah, like it's funny because like people these days are watching videos without sound. Like they're on the train, they don't have headphones or whatever. They'll see a video. You know, I have even had a client today who didn't even realize, you know, there was audio. He saw the captions and thought, oh, we're going to record video. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there is audio there. And audio is a big thing, right? You can't underestimate. Like I've done a few breakdowns over the years of like, here's the video as is. And here's the video without the music, but just with the sound effects. And there's so much that goes into the sound design. You know, like there's some tracks I've got, you know, 10, 12 like layers of just, and you're Googling, you know, like I use Artlist. I've got the sound effects part of that. And I use freesounds.org, I think is the website. Is that the one?
Telling everyone
my secrets are secrets. So there's a great, honestly, this is a great website. You probably use it, and people out there haven't heard about it. It's basically a free website that people upload sounds. And you can just Google, and it's sometimes not even related to that specific sound. So you might need a whoosh, but rather than typing in whoosh, you might say broom sweep, or I don't know, like something that's kind of related to a whoosh, but not really a whoosh or whatever. Like, you know, you can, there's 100 examples out there that you can use, but you're not always just Googling the word that you want. You Google other stuff that kind of sounds similar and you can get the result.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But though it is actually free, you still need to actually give credits to the people.
I always do. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But in terms of, great resource, I should say. More so than free.
It's one of the best resources around, I feel. Free being a benefit in itself. But the audio, look, there's some crap on there, but substantially most of the stuff is actually sensational.
Yeah, between Artlist, sound effects, between the two, that you can get something you want. But yeah, definitely, like, you know, audio is king, really. Like, you can get by with a video. If the audio is amazing and the visuals aren't great, you know, you can get stock footage, or you can go and shoot some additional footage later on, or whatever. But yeah, you got to be really careful.
You know, AI can generate all these different, you know, audio, video clips and other things as well.
That's a good question. It does video, it does photos, AI, but has there been AI that produces music produced?
I don't know.
I haven't seen anything.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, so there you go. Something quite unique there.
Yeah, there you go. So from my perspective, I've listened to your music and I have a proposal. Right?
Here we go.
I want to...
This is not being recorded though, is it? Like,
are you going to start the fan club? Is that what
Have we stopped recording on this yet, or no? We're still recording.
Constantine fan club, that's what you're proposing.
Well, no, because I've got this idea for the short film. Right, and I want to be able to produce it. And this lazy bum, Evan, is...
Have you seen what year that was made, though? How long ago?
It doesn't matter, though. It's original, and it's exactly what I want. So I've got it off air. I want to talk to you about it. Sure. And I want to be able to say, hey, on this and this day, we're going to sort of sit down, and then we'll do a storyboard, and then we'll... You know, I've got actors in mind. I've got things in my head that I want to be able to produce, you know? And I think your music is going to be fantastic fit for it.
And you know what the funny thing is? You've never mentioned this before, so his audio has inspired you. So that says something about your audio.
That's what I mean.
Must have been all right. Thanks.
Audio inspires and creates.
It does. And I love it, you know what I mean? And like I said, at the end of the day, we're gonna take this podcast out with your music. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I don't know what else. What's the next part that we want to talk about, Evan?
I just wanted to know about in the period that you've actually been doing production. What has been the highlight, and what has been probably the worst experience you've had?
When you say production, you mean like freelancing work the last 12 months, you mean? Or
Oh, no,
you mean producing anything?
Pretty
like
much
this?
anything,
Yeah, look, it was the last 12 months. So the worst experience that I've had, and it comes back to being prepared. Things go wrong. Gear, as you know, is going to go wrong. I was hired, and I was reluctant to do it at first as well because so I got asked to film a funeral, and I had to sit back and go, oh, okay, I don't know if I want to film a funeral. How do I feel about that? Sticking a camera in people's faces when they're grieving. It just didn't sit right with me. And then I'm like, and the more I found out about it, it was actually more a memorial service than a funeral. So when I went there, it was more of a look back at this guy's, this man who's passed, his life. You know, he was like 90 years old. He was a scholar at a university, and there was all these people, and he died like months ago. So it wasn't like fresh. It was more like a corporate event, to be honest. Anyway, so I was filming a funeral. I had Was it a funeral or a celebration of life? Yeah, memorial. So it was a memorial. So it was more of a celebration.
Yeah,
so I'm saying funeral, but it was a memorial.
Sorry, I wanted to clarify that because I've done funerals, I've done celebrations of life, I've done memorials, and I got to tell you, the funerals, every time I've done one, I've just ended up leaving crying, which I don't even know the person. I'm crying.
No, this was quite happy. Like it was, you know, they were looking back. They had photos and videos, and it was, you know, they had drinks. And it was all quite a nice, beautiful venue, an old mansion in the city somewhere, beautiful venue. Anyway, so I was filming. So I had one camera at the back, GH6 at the back. I had a camera on the side. My old GH5 was doing a wide, which just had scratch audio, had no audio. So the one at the back had a shotgun mic, and it was recording to a CF Express card on the GH6. And I had a third camera that was going to be roaming. It was more tight shots, handheld, all fine. So I was getting direct audio from the mixing desk into my little Zoom FS3 audio device. Actually, no, it was my H8, the bigger one. So yeah, it was plug that in. I pressed record, but it was being hidden behind the podium. So there was a podium, and it was closed off in a cupboard. I pressed record, and I put it away, and I'm like, okay, I've got audio. I tested it out. It's all fine. Worst case scenario, I've got the camera at the back of the room with the shotgun mic. That's all fine. We're all good, and I've got the wide camera. Long story short, it was a 2-hour memorial service, and I hadn't pressed stop or start for 2 hours on the camera at the back. I went to click record, and it wouldn't stop. I'm like, okay, this is not good. And I pressed stop again. It wasn't stopping. So it was still red record. Everything was going. I'm like, okay. And it was a V-mount battery on the back of it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to take out the V.
The heart rate
so I'm like, okay, yeah, it was going. It was through the roof. I'm like, okay. And my camera has a functionality where I can repair in camera. So there's like the .mdt file. If it gets corrupted, so if the battery comes out of your camera on the GH6 anyway, I don't know about other cameras, but if a battery gets dislodged while you're recording, it kind of corrupts, but there's a functionality inside where you can click on repair, and it'll repair the video, and you can see it going along, and it should be fine. Anyway, so I took the battery out going, okay, I'll do this repair. And I did the repair in camera. I'm like, oh, that'll be fine. No worries, that'll be fine. Okay. So I'll take that home and I'll repair it, and it'll be good. So I went and got the Zoom from behind the podium, and it wasn't recording at all. So there was no audio. So I don't know what happened, whether I double clicked it, you know, when you press record and you think it's recording, and then I let go, and I don't know. I did a test and everything, so I don't know what happened. Anyway, I found out the actual SD card in the GH6 at the back of the room failed on me, and I lost the audio directly from the board. So all I had was a GH5 on the wide angle with scratch audio, and it was terrible. So like it was a horrible moment, but I had to ring the client, right? So it was a new client, and I had to ring them and to say, look, I'm so sorry. This has never happened before. The SD card's failed. And to be honest, they took it pretty well. Like the job was just film and hand over the footage, but because of what happened, I'm like, I've got to have to work wonders. And luckily my audio background maybe came in handy. Yeah. I had to work wonders on scratch audio from a distance on an old GH5. I ended up using, Adobe AI podcast, before it was embedded in Premiere. Now it's, in the beta version. And so I had to use that. I had to use Isotope, all these suite of Isotope, mastering plugins and denoise plugins and plugins over plugins over plugins, just to kind of get to a point where I can do it. And I said, look, I'm going to have to take a... Well, he basically said, you got to do the edit because, it was a mess. And I said, I can salvage this with the wide and all the handheld clips that I did with the third camera. Look, I did the job. It was fine. I ended up, making it work. But it goes back to make sure your audio is in order because you can get away with, bad footage. If especially this was all talking, right? It was all about his life and this man's life. And I felt bad that look, it was passable. And, it did the wife test and she's like, oh, that's okay. I'm like, yeah, but in my head, it wasn't okay.
You know what? It's okay, man.
It's okay.
It means it's
shit. It probably was, look, it wasn't great. But, that's probably the worst moment I've had. I've had other moments, but that one sticks out, especially when it's a,
And what was the best?
Funeral.
What was the best?
Best moment?
Ooh. Something that you really sort of turned around and you go, I love this.
You know what I love? Yeah, you know what I love? So like you said, I do music. So a friend of mine is a musician as well in Perth. Brian, his name is Brian Rice Dalton as an artist, and his cousin is Damien Rice. So I don't know if you know Damien Rice, singer-songwriter, Irish singer-songwriter, Glenn Hansard, The Frames, that sort of era. Yeah. Anyway, big artist, millionaire, sold millions and millions of records. Anyway, he was out doing a gig at the Melbourne Recital Centre, and my mate of mine, his cousin's with him, he got the support slot. And I got an opportunity to be the videographer, I guess, for this gig. And I said to him, I'll make a short film for you, mate. You're in town, he's in Melbourne, we're friends. It wasn't a paid gig. This is just something I wanted to do. And I followed him around backstage, on stage. I went up and did sort of behind the scenes things and filmed. And in the end, I said, look, I've got this great footage, but I said, I want a story out of this. I want to be able to put a little short film together. And I said, look, just talk to me about, your life and your music and what this means to you. Had a newborn. And anyway, so he basically just did it on his iPhone in Perth, recorded it. And I put together this sort of short film for him. But just, doing something music related, which I don't often get to do, being on stage and, filming something like that before was, a great opportunity. Right. I was the only one doing any video at that venue for that gig as well. So it was pretty cool.
There you go.
But I need to do more music related stuff.
Evan. It's all music, mate.
Why does it always come back to Evan? It's like I'm sitting here quietly listening and appreciating it and soaking in the info, and then I hear Evan. It's just like, you know what I mean?
You mentioned that you obviously did a bit of free work. Do you find that sort of helped you propel that sort of, the freelancers career forward? To be
honest, I haven't really done that whole, go and work for free for my portfolio. I was, I guess, lucky, when I was working full time that I was able to get that experience and have enough content behind me to be able to use as examples of what I could do. So that was very lucky. I know a lot of guys, who go out, like I've met some people at the freelancers group where, they're doing real estate and they might contact a listing and go, I noticed you don't have any videos. I can come and do a free video, which is awesome. To get the opportunity to go into $1 million house, multi-million dollar house and have it for a couple of hours to film. Yeah. That's a great opportunity. I understand why you would go and do that for free, because then you could actually make amazing content. You can maybe film it behind the scenes, then that could help you for for your social reels and media and so forth. So I get it. I haven't, that was really, to be fair, it wasn't totally free. He comped me a ticket to the show as well. So look, that was full disclosure, not 100% free, but he might have been giving me that ticket anyway. I don't know, but I think as a thank you, I was like, I'll do a film for you as a thank you as well. So yeah.
I've got a question. It's kind of a weird one. Freelancing. Have you ever been contacted by someone to take on a contract, possibly to work for someone else under their brand?
Yes, I have.
And has that experience been positive or negative? Because we've had some experiences recently where you just sit there and you shake your head and you go, seriously, what were you thinking?
You don't
have to answer it.
No, it's a tricky one. So I am new. Like I've only been doing my own business, freelancing 100%, like I said, for 12 months. So I still feel, even though I've been doing video for 8-9 years full time, I still feel, like I'm newish to the small business game, in the business game.
Yep.
I have done a gig a couple of times for, another photographer who's hired me as an additional, he can do video and photos, but if you want to do one well, you've got to solely do photos or solely do videos, like if you compromise. And I've got a gig next week. Unfortunately, I've got to compromise and do both video and photo, and it's a hard gig to do, but ideally you want to focus on just video or just photo. So he can do both, but he wanted to concentrate on photo and get me to do the videos and interviews and so forth. So yeah, I have done that. But I'm pretty social and friendly, and when I'm out on site, I'm chatting to clients. I'm, just, being myself, and, nothing, there's no untoward sort of, I'm not trying to poach their clients or anything like that. I'm just being friendly, and this was my first experience. It's kind of a bit of an eye-opening experience for me, actually. Really early on it was almost 12 months ago. It was really, really early on in my, my freelancing days. And I was being friendly and connecting, and I'm like, one of their clients, I was just chatting. We spent the whole day interviewing together. I just said, I'll connect on LinkedIn, and they were asking me what I did, and I said, I do mainly, some short films and case studies. That's kind of my specialty. And anyway, long story short, the person that I worked with didn't like the way that I was talking to their client. And I'm like,
too friendly, obviously.
Yeah.
It's because of that. They were probably afraid that you were trying to take their client away.
Yeah, and it was nothing like that. It was funny, but it was actually probably a good thing for me to have done or experienced early on, because it just makes you be hyper aware of, I wasn't going in there and working as me. I was actually going under someone else's brand and their name. Yeah. And I get that. I'm glad it happened to me, because it's made me really conscious. If I ever do another job for another company or another, freelancer or photographer or videographer or whatever, going under someone else's name, it really makes you be more aware of, don't be too friendly. And I wasn't trying to poach them. I was just being friendly because I was just being who I was. But you just got to be really conscious and careful. I got a phone call and they weren't happy with how I was,
and you have no malice there or no intention to do anything. But it happened. When I work for Marty, sometimes, people come up to me and start talking to me, and I'm like, I'm Melbourne Images, or he probably hates me saying
one by one, maybe.
One by one, you're going to forget. But that, the old days, it was I was representing you, so I would be using your name. And you probably hated it because you're like, don't ruin my name, man. But it's interesting because I'm not sure about you, Marty, but I was actually pulled up once to do a job, and I said, no worries, I'll help out. And I was professional. I was representing them. The client started speaking to me. This is before the shoot, and I'm like, yeah. And they go, how long have you been working together? And I'm like, here and there, a bit of this, bit of that. Didn't actually give any details, but made it out that I was working for this person. So best of interest for the person who's hiring me. And just before we were meant to start shooting, they go, can we just speak to you outside for a sec? I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. I walk outside and they're like, can you sign this contract? I'm like, pardon? I was taken off guard by it. I was like, what the hell is this contract,
NDA?
It was like 17 pages of, can you sign this? And I'm like, what is it? And they're like, it's just this, talk about the relationship we're going to have, in front of the client. And I'm like, okay. And I said, do you mind if I just have a moment to read? You don't have to read it, just sign it. I'm like, I'm not going to sign anything that I can't read. If you don't sign it, you're not coming into work. I'm like, well, and then I've had experience, and it actually dragged on, and there was a lot more to it than that. But so have you ever had anything to that level happen?
No, and it's like recently I've had to start potentially hiring photographers that coming under my name. So it's the first experience that I've had as well. And we had Karis from the Melbourne Video Freelancers group join me on Monday, which was amazing. She was great. I could have done photos and videos, but I'm like, you know what? I want to concentrate on video, and I hired her to take photos and do the photography, it worked out amazing. And it's another reason to network and have that network around you. But yeah, she was sort of coming through my business, and I'm working with a big client, a corporate client now, that they've recently, they've had a photographer that's been working there for 25 years as a freelancer, and they're not 100% happy with the output and the quality of the work anymore. And they've come to me and gone, and I've worked with this photographer, for a few shoots, and he does great work, and it's fine. But they've come to me now going, I want you to take over photo and video. So I guess it's my start of my business starting to be not just me, and having to think about, okay, I might have to bring people in at certain times if the job gets too big, or, like you can't do everything yourself. Like I am doing pretty much everything myself on most occasions. Interviews, I'm setting up everything, the lights, the cameras, all that sort of stuff. But it would be great to have someone that I could hire to come and help me set up a lot of it and, just step back a bit. But I'm not quite at that stage yet. But it's my first experience in starting to, hire people within the fold of who I am in my business. And then, it's, I guess, relinquishing a little bit of that, not control, but it is hard, but like, a little bit because
it's your baby.
Yeah. I mean, like they're representing your name, right? So you got to make sure that, you got to make sure the quality works there, but also you got to get along with them. And that was like with Karis, like, we chatted at the meetup and, I got along with her great. I thought, you know what? I reckon work quality is great, and get along with her really well, and I think this could work. So that was great.
I
to
found the same thing, and in the sense that almost like 60% is your attitude, and then 40% will be the images that you're creating. You know what I mean? So in the case of that client, we're dealing with this photographer for the last 25 years. She's obviously he, she, whatever, whoever. They've obviously got other style at that particular client or whatever else, and they just he, she, whatever felt like they had him in the bag, and there's no one's going to take that job away. You know what I mean? Yet they turn around and they go,
it's you've got to look. At the end of the day, people hire people, and if you're not likable, if you're not that person wasn't likable, but if you're not likable, if you're not friendly, if you're not, showing that you're going the extra mile for your client, yes, you can produce a video. Everyone with their iPhones can produce a video these days, 100%. Right? So they're not just hiring you for your video. Yes, they are, but they're also hiring you because they get along with you, and they go, I enjoyed working with you, and that's part of our job is also how we present ourselves, how we interact, how we communicate, how much fun did they have on set with you, and got to be lighthearted and not take things too seriously. And it's a stressful job, like it's not for everyone. But you've also got to not show that you're stressed at any point in time. Like you just got to, everything's fine. Try to, like you got to
put it on the face.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You've got to, and you've got to make it fun on, when you're filming.
So like this last shot that I did for this solar company thing, and that was last week, and I said to him, like we sort of had a chat, and I gave him a quote, and it wasn't cheap, but he basically said, I've got a couple of other quotes that are much cheaper than you were. So then he was like, what makes you so special, charging a little bit more? And I just had a chat with him, this and that, suggested a few things, and he goes, I hired you at the end of the day because I enjoyed talking to you. You know what I mean? So I actually found that it is obviously a fair bit, like not just people not just looking for photography or video, they're looking for personality that actually fits into that brand. You know what I mean? So I
and
totally
also
agree.
if you've done work for them before, it makes it easy for them as well.
Definitely.
Like if you can get into clients, if you're their go-to for anything visual, and it makes their life, if you can make their life easier by going, you know what, this I know, Con can do it. I've worked with him before. He's easy to get along with. He can do a good job. They don't have to think about tendering it and going out to tender and get other. They just, if you're their go-to, that's a good spot to be in.
100%. And we've been going over for an hour now, but what's the future for Constantine Films? Come on, tell me.
I don't know. Just keep going what I'm doing at the moment. Look, it's
You're enjoying it.
Yeah. Look. January was, a quiet period, and it kind of made me reassess going, is this going to pick up? I knew it was going to be quiet. It's I mainly do corporate work. Everyone's got 4 weeks leave around Christmas time. And to be honest, there was a time where I'm like, do I start looking for, my instructional design background? Do I, is this going to pick up? And then it just kind of went, phoomp. I'm like, okay, now it's like, I've got so much work on at the moment. So you just got to ride it out. And I'm loving what I'm doing. I guess at some stage I've got to maybe expand. If I'm getting too much work, I've got to try and potentially, take the foot off the pedal and go, you know what, maybe I outsource the editing. But the editing is such a key part of what you do, and it's your stamp a little bit in terms of your style of how you kind of cut and the flow and the music, all that, and sound effects. And at some point, I can see myself having to do that, because if you've got so much work on, you just physically can't do it. You're going to get burnt out. You're not. It's not going to be fun anymore. So look, I can see myself potentially at some point. I'm not quite there yet at the moment. I'm still doing everything, but just branching out and getting that extra support.
It's actually quite funny because, as you both know, I'm fairly heavy into drones at the moment. I've actually applied for a position, drone operator. Right, this was a couple of months back, and like you said, some months can be a bit busy and some be quiet. So I actually applied in those quiet sort of months, and the wife turned around to me. She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, what do you mean? I love flying drones. I want to do this full time." She's like, "No." What do you mean? So she goes, "You love, your video editing. You love your drones, but you love your video production, video editing, sound and this and that." She goes, "Just stick to what you do. What's the point?" She goes, "There will be quiet months and there will be busy months." You know what I mean? And funny thing is as soon as she said that, I had 2 major clients ring me up for multi-$1,000 freaking jobs. You know what I mean? And I was just like, okay, I don't feel that bad anymore. Not going for it or whatever else.
That's what I love about this job as well. Is at any point in time, I can go and check my email now. There might be something there. I don't know, but I love waking up and going, something today could drop. Like you just don't know where it comes from. Like you don't. Yeah, and every job is so. You're right. Yeah. I've worked in health and in engineering and different sort of fields and
from one day to another. A while back I did the massive job for Honda, and then the other one was being on top of a roof doing solar panels, and and then something else was in this massive warehouse, and and it's just. The knowledge that you obtain by working with these different companies and dealing with these different people, it's it can be hard at times because you're obviously not getting that monthly wage coming in, and that every single month you get that $5,000-$6,000 every single month, or but I think I personally love that sort of variance of working with one extreme to the other,
and also the flexibility. Like I've got 2 kids and I'm still kind of doing school drop-offs, pickups and school drop-offs 3 days a week because my wife's part-time as well. So the flexibility where I can take the kids and spend that time with the kids and drop them off, and then I can work back at night when they're in bed or something. Like I've got that. I'm not bound to a desk. I'm not, I've got no boss saying clocking in, clocking out, checking my, my teams. Why is he offline, or all that sort of stuff. And
that's right.
Yeah, the freedom of that is great, but also just the excitement of what job's going to come tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what I love as well. Like next week I'm going to New South Wales to do a full day of droning. You know what I mean? And it's just I've never been to Corowa or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So I'm excited just to go for a road trip and obviously just check it out and obviously make sure, that, I can fly the drone and meet different people and do whatever else, So,
let me know if you need any BTS. I'll come along with the trip.
Come for a drive, come for a, road trip, it'd be fun,
I love a good road trip.
Everyone's falling asleep there. Wakey.
Still with us.
No, not at all. I'm listening again. It's like, no. It was actually interesting that you're talking about the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, picking up the kids and all that. As we alluded to on a number of shows ago, I've actually taken up a full-time role, short-term contract, which is actually not that short after all.
I do listen to the podcast, so I did know that.
So basically, I've taken a step back from that freedom that you're talking about. And whilst you're talking about, you can spend time with your kids, I'm thinking, who are my kids? I can't remember them. Drop them off at school. I'm just like, I haven't even seen the school in months. I used to do all the school productions for them. Like the teachers would run out and go, "Hey, Evan, we're doing a new construction building. Do you want to film it?" I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. They don't even speak to me anymore because no one ever sees me, and I've lost that ability to work my own hours, the freedom, the creativity. And look, don't get me wrong, I enjoy working in what I'm doing because it's what I was trained to do to begin with. But there is that level of freedom and excitement, and you're talking about not knowing where the next dollar is going to come from, and should you be looking for another job, or and then suddenly the jobs land. I remember that, and I'm like, it was a horrible feeling when you were sitting there in limbo thinking, when the hell's the work going to come? But then you get the work coming in, you're like, woo, it's exciting, and all the different places I've worked at where, traveling the country and stuff, and I look back and I think I really missed that.
But even the downtime, right? There's always something you could be doing. Like I haven't even had time to launch, so I've got the website, I've got my email address for Constantine Films, and I've been pegging away at my website for literally 12 months. But because I've been busy. I just haven't had time to finish it. But in the downtime, I started to get, very close to launching it. So you can, admin stuff, website, reels. I haven't finished my reel, updated my reel in, 18 months. So there's things like that you can do for your business that's actually working for you as well. So use the downtime to your advantage.
But you need to have that downtime to create that content, because otherwise you'll get forgotten. I don't even get a chance to do that nowadays, and so it's a little bit sad.
But it's just funny just to end off like what you're saying about your job. I find I love my job. Don't get me wrong; it's creative. I get to be creative and create content. But I'm probably, and goes back to you about my music. At times I feel creatively spent. So at the end of the day, I've been creating and doing stuff. I get to the end going, I just want to veg out and not do anything creative at night, which has probably been to the detriment of my music, because don't get me wrong, I love what I do, and I'm not saying that, but there's only so much creative energy you can expel in a day, and to have that at the end of the day, sometimes it's can be hard.
Totally agree. And sometimes I do like a 4 to even 6 hour shoot, and I just feel like, when I get home, to the studio, I don't even want to feel like putting that SD card in the, in the computer, because I just, I'm done. Done.
You need your break. You need a mental break. Yeah.
So it's definitely, you need to love it, what you do, yet, you still need a bit of time away from it in a sense. So I think your music, is fantastic in that sense, where you can sort of still become, still just jam along and on your guitar and whatever else, and it's just brilliant. But are we hey, how people can find you? So obviously you do a lot of corporate work, and that's mainly what you focus on at the moment. So LinkedIn's obviously the best way to actually find you.
I've got my name's Constantine Ongarizos, and Constantine Films is obviously the business name. And that was something I've been juggling, grappling with, I guess. It was whether I go with a company name that's not my name, but that was something in the group that was discussed the other day. But look, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Constantine Films. But my website would be constantinefilms.au, which hasn't officially launched. I'm hoping in a few weeks. But
cool.
But thanks.
That'd be great. And obviously Instagrams as well, Constantine Films too. And Facebooks and all the different platforms.
Got to be on all the socials, Evan. That's right. Evan's big
Evan,
fan.
Love Facebook fan. And social media, mate. Come on, mate.
And look, if you're struggling to find him anywhere of those places that we just mentioned, just look at the Video Guy's Instagram page. He's on
Scroll
there.
Scroll back. Forgot about
pinching all their prizes.
You are my enemy, my mortal enemy.
No, that's great.
Shout out to Video Guys. Shout out. That's right.
Yeah, definitely. No, the guys have been great, and the Video Guys have been actually a huge support of us as well. So, which is really,
they're not far
good.
from I'm only like 10, 15 minutes from. I'm there all the time. That's probably why they gave it to me. They're like, get out of my shop. Get out of my shop. You're here all the time.
He bribed them, Evan. He bribed them.
Yes, I told them it was fixed, and they're like, no, it's not fixed. I'm like, bullshit. This is fixed.
Local. They've gone local. They've gone the local kid.
I understand. I live on the other side of the planet, so that explains it all.
But hey, if you don't mind, can I finish the podcast episode with your music, please? Because I reckon I really enjoyed it, man. So I really hope that people will enjoy it as well.
And here's a guitar so you can play live right now for us.
Oh, really? No, that's all right. I've left that one at home.
I'm not putting you on the spot or anything.
Thank you very much for coming on.
No worries.
I think it was great to sort of hear your story and your side of obviously what your thoughts are and what you do and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's and I think you're doing a fantastic job with this Melbourne Videographers sort of group as well. I think it's it's something that we needed for a long time ago, and now since we're all there together, we really connect, and like I said, we help each other out, and it's not about the competition, it's about collaboration and obviously helping each other out. And the clients will come, clients will come, and obviously we'll, everyone can get a bit of a pie. So
and if anyone contacts me, like get in touch with me, and I can add you to the group if you want to be part of that Melbourne Video Freelancers group, and be surrounded by simimer people and community, and ask questions.
It's new as well. So
it's getting off the ground.
People come and go, and obviously, but the end of the day, we catch up every 2-3 months. We have a couple of beers, and we obviously talk. And last turnout we had 15, 20 people.
20 people.
So it was great.
You need to get a bigger room next time.
Yeah,
it's
that's
getting
a good
the
idea.
local tap house is getting a little small now for that catch up, but like the beers are too good to not go there.
I know, I agree on
Selfishly,
that
I've picked the venue based on the good craft beer, so that's
Hey,
a secret hobby of mine.
That was a good choice on your behalf.
Thank you. No, thanks guys for having me
you.
on, and
Yeah.
but I've been listening to your podcast for a while, so it's been awesome
beautiful.
to be a part of it and get to see the inner sanctum of the studio, and
It's
been awesome.
a
Thanks.
little small and humble, but I think it's doing the job well.
No,
So
it's
good.
amazing. Thanks guys for having me. Cheers.
So to take it away, let's listen to one of my favorite tracks by Con, The Outsider, the acoustic version. Thanks again, Con. All the best.
Take care.
Bye bye. Help me if you can. It's just that this is not the way I'm wired, so could you please help me understand why you're giving in to all these reckless dark desires? You're lying through your teeth again, suicidal imbecile. Now think about it, pounding on a full line. What it takes to get through to you, precious. I'm over this, why I wanna throw it away like this. Such a mess, why would I wanna want you? Disconnect and self-destruct, one bullet at a time. What's your rush now? Everyone will have its day to die. Medicated drama queen, picture perfect non-belligerence, narcissistic drama queen, craving fame and all its decadence. Lying through your teeth again, suicidal imbecile. Now think about it, pounding on a full line. What it takes to get through to you, precious. I'm over this, why I wanna throw it away like this. Such a mess, why would I wanna want you? Disconnect and self-destruct, one bullet at a time. What's your rush now? Everyone will have its day to die. They were right about you. They were right about you. Lying through your face again, suicidal imbecile. Now think about it, pounding on a full line. What it takes to get through to you, precious. I'm over this, why I wanna throw it away like this. Such a mess,